The small human boy walked slowly through the wide silver hallway. The floor under his shoes was smooth like glass and shone with a soft blue light. On both sides, tall windows showed the sky of Lunera, a sky not like Earth. It was a soft violet color with two suns shining far away. Strange flying shapes passed by, their wings glowing as they moved through the air. Tom, the human boy, kept looking around in wonder. He was holding a small bag close to his chest. He had come from Earth 2 months ago with his parents, who were engineers working for the new human-alien peace program. Humans had finally been allowed to visit Lunara after many years of silent study. The people of Lunara, known as the Lunians, were peaceful but private. They looked a bit like humans, but had smooth light blue skin and bright crystal eyes that seemed to shine even in the dark. Tom's parents had told him that he would be the first human child ever allowed to study in a Lunian school. It was called Starbloom Academy, a famous place where young Lunians learned science, music, and energy arts. When he first heard it, Tom felt proud. But now that he was standing in front of the classroom door, pride had turned into fear. He looked at his reflection in the shiny door panel. He saw a small boy with short brown hair, gray eyes, and a nervous face. His hands were shaking. He took a deep breath. The door slid open with a soft sound. Inside, the classroom was bright and filled with voices, soft musical voices speaking in the Lenian language. When the door opened, all those voices stopped. Every single student turned to look at him. There were about 20 alien girls in the room. Their long white and blue hair shone under the classroom lights. Their eyes were different colors: green, gold, violet, even silver. They all stared at Tom like he was some strange animal that had walked into their home. Some of them tilted their heads, whispering in their soft voices. Tom's heart started beating fast. He wanted to turn around and run away. But then he heard a gentle voice. "Class, please welcome our new student," said Miss Rena. The teacher, she was tall, graceful, and her eyes were kind. She wore a long silver robe that seemed to move like water when she walked. She gave Tom a smile that made him feel a little less scared. "This is Tom," she said. "He has come from the human world called Earth. He will be studying with us from today. Please treat him with respect." Tom bowed slightly, unsure what else to do. "Hello," he said quietly. The class stayed silent. Some girls looked at each other. One girl near the front whispered, "He is so small." Another said softly, "His skin has no glow." Miss Rena tapped her desk lightly. "Enough, students. Tom is different, yes, but that means we can learn from him, and he can learn from us." She looked at Tom again. "You may take the empty seat in the 3rd row." Tom nodded and walked between the rows of desks. The classroom smelled faintly of flowers and something like fresh rain. The seats and tables were smooth, shaped from some kind of living crystal. As he sat down, he could feel a light warmth from the seat. It adjusted to his body shape automatically. He placed his small bag on the desk and looked around. The girls were still watching him, though a few had turned back to their glowing screens. The screens showed pictures of planets, energy waves, and strange symbols he did not understand. Miss Rena began to teach. Her voice was calm and clear. She talked about harmonic energy, something the Lunians used in daily life. It was a kind of invisible sound power that could move small objects or shape materials. "Every living thing has a sound," she said. "When we match our own sound to that of another, we can touch it without our hands."
Almost.
Tom listened carefully. He had never heard of such a thing. The teacher asked the students to demonstrate. One by one, the girls stood and hummed soft notes. When they did, the small stones on their desks began to float in the air. Some of the stones danced around like they were alive. The sound filled the room, soft and beautiful. Tom watched with wide eyes. On Earth, such a thing was impossible. He had seen machines that could move metal or lift heavy loads. But not this, not power from the voice alone. Miss Rena smiled and looked at him. "Tom, would you like to try?" He froze. "Me?" He asked. "Yes," she said gently. "You may not know our energy waves, but perhaps you can share something humans do." The class turned to him again. Their eyes sparkled with curiosity. Tom looked down at his hands. He didn't know any special power. What could he show them? He thought for a moment, then saw a small metal rod lying on one of the tables. He stood up, walked to the front, and picked it up. It was a simple training rod for their energy tests. He held it in both hands. His heart beat fast again. He remembered what his father had told him before leaving for school that morning. Be proud of what humans can do, even if it looks simple. What matters is the heart behind it. Tom took a deep breath and began to bend the metal rod slowly with his bare hands. It was not easy. His small arms trembled, and his face turned red from effort. After a moment, the rod curved a little. The class gasped. Not because it was impressive, the Loonians could have done the same with one small sound, but because he did it with his body alone. Without tools, without energy, one girl with silver eyes raised her hand slightly. Why would you use your body like that? It looks painful. Tom smiled a little. Because it helps us grow strong, he said simply. The class whispered again, but this time the tone was different. They seemed curious. Miss Rena nodded. That is an answer from the heart. Different paths can still reach strength. Tom placed the bent rod on the table and sat back down. For the rest of the class, he felt their eyes on him less. Some girls were even smiling now when the lesson ended. Miss Rena said, Remember, class, strength can come from many sources: sound, mind, or courage. Tom packed his bag slowly. As he turned to leave, one of the girls stopped him. It was the one with silver eyes who had spoken earlier. She smiled lightly and said, Your way is strange, human boy, but maybe it is interesting.
Oh.
Tom grinned shyly. Thanks. When he walked out of the room, the soft hall light seemed less cold. The school that had felt so big and strange now felt a little warmer. He didn't know that this was just the beginning. The first small step of something that would change both humans and Loonians forever. The next morning, the twin suns of Lunara rose over the shining towers of the Starbloom Academy. The sky was soft purple, and small airbirds sang as they flew past the tall glass domes. The school buildings sparkled like crystals. Catching the first light of the day, Tom woke early in his small room at the human quarters near the academy. His mother had left a note on the table before going to her lab. It said, Be brave and kind today. He folded the note and put it in his pocket before leaving. He wanted to remember those words. When he reached the classroom, most of the alien girls were already there. Their voices filled the air like gentle music. They were talking and laughing in their soft, Loonian tones. When Tom entered, some looked up and smiled politely, others still whispered. But it was no longer the same heavy silence as the first day. Miss Rena welcomed him with a warm nod. Good morning, Tom. Today we will study applied harmonic energy. Tom took his seat and opened his notebook. The notebook was human-made. The other students found it strange that he used paper and pencil instead of the glowing crystal screens they had. But Tom liked to write by hand. He said it helped him think. Miss Rena drew glowing symbols in the air. Today we will see how harmonic energy can be used to move objects and shape material. The secret is balance between voice, will, and calm heart. The class began to hum softly. Small stones rose from their desks, floating gently like bubbles. The girls guided them through the air, shaping them into rings, cubes, and small glowing birds. Tom watched with wide eyes, trying to understand. Miss Rena turned to him. Tom, would you like to try again today? He blinked. I can try, but I still do not know how. She smiled. Then start by listening. Everything in this room has a sound. Feel it before you act. Tom closed his eyes. The room was quiet, except for the gentle hum of the girls' voices. He tried to hear something else, a whisper, a soft tone from the stones. But all he could hear was the sound of his own heartbeat. He tried humming, but nothing happened. The small stone on his desk stayed still. The other students watched silently. After a few tries, one girl in the back giggled softly. Tom heard it, but kept trying. He remembered his mother's words again. Be brave and kind, Miss Rena. Stopped beside him and placed her glowing hand near his desk. It is all right, Tom. Loonians learn to use harmonic power when they are very young. You are learning something new. It takes time. Tom nodded. I understand, Miss Rena. Then a clear voice came from the left side of the room. It was the silver-eyed girl, Nira. Maybe humans are not built for this kind of energy, she said. Her tone was not cruel, only curious. Tom looked at her and said calmly, Maybe not. But we have other ways. Nira tilted her head. Like what? Tom stood up slowly. On Earth, we use tools and machines to help us. But we also use hands and hearts. Miss Rena smiled at his words. Then show us something from your world. Tom thought for a moment. He took a small glass orb from the desk. It was one of the harmonic training tools. Can I? He asked. The teacher nodded. Tom held the orb in both hands. We do not move things with sound. We build things. He looked around and then took out something from his pocket, a small metal cube. This is from my father's work. Humans use simple energy to make this spin. Pressed a small button, and the cube began to rotate slowly in his palm. The aliens watched with interest. Nira leaned forward. It moves without sound? Yes, Tom said. It moves because we learned how to use power from the stars and from motion. Humans do not sing to things, but we listen to the world in another way. Miss Rena nodded thoughtfully. Very good, Tom. This shows how different minds reach the same goal, control over energy. For the rest of the morning, the students worked in pairs to move small objects. Miss Rena asked Nira and Tom to work together. At first, Nira seemed unsure. She had never studied beside a human before, but she was curious. She placed 2 stones in front of them. You try to move this one, she said. I will move the other. Tom tried to hum again, but the stone did not move. Nira's stone rose quickly and floated in circles. She smiled with pride, but not unkindly. You have strong will, but maybe your heart is too loud, she said softly. Tom frowned in confusion. Too loud? Yes, she said, laughing lightly. Your thoughts make too much noise. Harmonic energy listens to calm hearts. He took a deep breath and tried again, focusing on the small stone. He imagined the sound of the wind he heard outside the window. He imagined the 2 suns shining softly. Still, nothing happened. He looked up and saw Nira watching him with patient eyes. Do not try to command it, she said. Ask it. Tom smiled. Ask a stone. She nodded. Yes. Everything listens if you are gentle. He tried one last time, humming as softly as he could, almost whispering. The stone trembled just a little. It did not rise, but it moved slightly across the desk. Tom's eyes widened. Nira clapped her hands once. It moved. That is something. He laughed softly. Maybe it was just luck. No, Nira said. Luck does not listen. Effort does. When the class ended, Miss Rena asked everyone to write what they had learned today. Tom wrote in his notebook, strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet and patient. As he finished, he noticed Nira watching him again. What are you writing with? She asked, pointing to his pencil. It is called a pencil, Tom said. Humans use it to write words on paper. Nira leaned closer, curious. We have not used such things for many ages. But I like the sound it makes. Tom smiled and handed her the pencil. You can try. She held it carefully, pressing it to the paper. When the pencil made a soft, scratching sound, she giggled. It is alive in its own way. They both laughed quietly, and for the first time, Tom felt truly welcome. Later that day, during lunch, Tom sat under the tall crystal trees outside the school. The trees glowed faintly in the twin sunlight, and their leaves whispered in the wind. He took out his food, a small packet of bread and fruit from the human kitchen. A few of the alien girls walked past, looking at him curiously. Nira stopped beside him again. What are you eating? Human food, Tom said, smiling. Do you want to try? She hesitated, then nodded. He broke a small piece of the fruit bread and handed it to her. She took a bite and blinked in surprise. It is sweet, she said. Tom laughed. Yes, it is made with fruit and sugar. She nodded slowly. Our food has energy, but not this kind of taste. Yours feels warm. Did not fully understand what she meant. but he was happy that she liked it. In the afternoon, the class gathered again for a small group challenge. Miss Rena wanted them to build a small bridge using harmonic energy and crystal blocks. Each team had to lift and connect the pieces with perfect balance. Tom and Nira worked together. She used her energy to lift the blocks, while Tom guided the shape from below with his hands, making sure they stayed aligned. It was hard work, but slowly they built something that looked stable. Other groups worked faster, their blocks floating easily. But Miss Rena seemed pleased with Tom's team. Patience and cooperation, she said, are also a form of harmony. When the final bell rang, Tom felt tired but proud. He had not moved any stones with his mind yet, but he had helped build something real. As he walked home through the long silver halls, he thought about the day. He realized something important. The Lunians were not so different after all. They used music instead of machines, but they still learned, failed, and laughed just like humans. At the gate, he looked up at the twin suns once more. They were setting behind the crystal towers, painting the sky with gold and blue light. Tom felt a quiet happiness in his chest. Maybe tomorrow he would move the stone a little higher. Maybe one day he would make it fly. And somewhere deep inside, he also felt that the friendship he had started today, the first small bond between a human and a Lunian student, would soon grow into something much greater. He smiled as he walked away, his small shadow stretching across the glowing road. A week had passed since Tom had joined Starbloom Academy. Each day felt a little easier now. The classroom that once felt full of strange eyes now felt like a place of learning and friendship. Some of the alien girls even waved at him when he entered. Miss Rena often smiled as she saw how well he tried to learn their ways. One bright morning, Miss Rena announced that the class would go on a special trip. Tomorrow, she said, we will visit the Crystal Plains. It is a sacred valley that sings with energy. You will see how our world breathes. The students began whispering with excitement. Even Tom felt his heart race. He had heard about the Crystal Plains from his father. It was said to be one of the most beautiful places on Lunera, a field of glowing stones that sang softly when the wind passed through them. When the next morning came, the twin suns were shining brightly. The class gathered near the school's air transport pad. The airship that would take them was shaped like a silver leaf, its surface glowing with soft blue lines. Tom stood near Nira, holding his small travel bag. Nira noticed his nervous look and smiled. You will like the plains. The air there feels alive. Tom nodded. I hope I do not step on the wrong thing. She laughed gently. The plains are gentle, but they test your heart. They will sing if they like you. Miss Rena guided the students onto the airship. The inside was warm and bright, and the seats were soft like clouds. As the ship rose from the pad, Tom looked through the wide window. Below them, the shining city stretched out with tall crystal towers, glowing rivers, and moving bridges of light. He pressed his face against the glass, amazed by the beauty. The trip took about an hour. When the ship began to lower, Tom saw the Crystal Plains for the first time. His eyes widened. The valley was filled with tall crystal pillars of every color, blue, green, gold, and clear white. They sparkled in the sunlight, and a soft hum filled the air. The sound was like hundreds of small voices singing together. When they landed, Miss Rena turned to the class. Remember, my students, the plains are living. Do not harm the crystals. Listen to them, and they will listen to you. Everyone stepped out. The ground was covered in smooth crystal dust that shone under their feet. Tom knelt and touched it gently. It felt cool but alive, like it pulsed with quiet energy. The girls began spreading out to practice harmonic control. They stood between the tall crystals and began humming. The sound from their voices joined the music of the valley, making the air shimmer. Some of the crystals glowed brighter, reacting to their energy. Tom stood near Nira, who was already focusing. She hummed softly, and the crystal beside her began to glow bright blue. Tom watched her and said, It looks alive. It is, Nira said. Every crystal holds memory. It listens to those who speak with truth. He nodded and tried to hum like she did. The sound came out shaky and low. The crystal in front of him stayed quiet. He tried again, but it only flickered for a second. Nira smiled kindly. You are still learning. The crystals are shy around new hearts. Miss Rena walked past and said, Keep trying, Tom. Even if you cannot make them sing, listen to what they tell you. That is also learning. Tom nodded and stood quietly. He closed his eyes and listened. He could hear the soft wind passing between the crystals. The sound was calm, gentle, and endless. He felt a strange peace inside. After some time, Miss Rena called everyone together. Let us walk toward the heart of the valley. There, the energy is strongest. The class began to move. They followed a glowing path between the tall pillars. The light beneath their feet pulsed with every step. The students were talking softly, enjoying the strange sounds around them as they moved deeper. The air began to shimmer more brightly. The hum grew louder. The ground sparkled like stars under their shoes. Tom could not stop smiling. It felt like he was standing inside a dream. But then, as they reached the center of the valley, the wind changed. It became faster, heavier, and the humming sound turned sharper. The sky above them darkened slightly, and the crystals began to shake. Miss Rena looked up with a serious face. Everyone, stay close to me. A moment later, a deep vibration passed through the ground. Some of the smaller crystals cracked, and a flash of energy burst from one of the pillars. A strange storm of glowing wind began to swirl around the valley. The energy storm, Miss Rena said quickly. It comes without warning. Everyone gather in a circle. Students obeyed at once. They held hands, forming a circle as Miss Rena raised her arms. A soft blue barrier of energy appeared around them. The glowing wind crashed against it, sending bright sparks into the air. Tom stood near Nira, holding her hand tightly. The barrier shimmered, but the storm grew stronger. One of the students shouted, Miss Rena, someone is missing. Tom turned and saw a small Lunian girl trapped near a fallen crystal pillar. She was on the other side of the storm, crying and trying to move the heavy crystal that pinned her foot. Without thinking, Tom let go of Nira's hand and ran forward. Tom, no. Nira shouted, but he did not stop. The wind hit him like a wall. It stung his face and made his eyes water. He pushed forward slowly, his small body fighting against the glowing air. He could see the girl struggling, her bright eyes full of fear. He reached her side and shouted over the storm, Don't move! I'll help you! The crystal was heavy. Tom tried to lift it, but it barely moved. His hands burned from the rough edges. He pushed again with all his strength, his arms trembling. Behind him, Miss Rena and the others were trying to hold the barrier, but it flickered with every wave of the storm. Nira ran to the edge of the barrier, her voice shaking. Tom, come back! Tom gritted his teeth. He pushed one last time, shouting with effort. The crystal shifted just enough for the girl to pull her foot free. He grabbed her arm and helped her stand. Hold my hand, he said. She nodded, and they both ran toward the others. The storm roared louder, throwing bright sparks around them. Miss Rena raised her hand, creating a small opening in the barrier. Tom pushed the girl through first, then stumbled inside. The barrier closed again. The class gasped as they saw his uniform, burned in a few places and his hands red from the crystal edges. He sat on the ground, breathing heavily, but smiling. She's safe, he said softly. Miss Rena knelt beside him and placed her glowing hand above his arms. The blue light covered his skin, healing the small burns. You were very brave, Tom, she said, but that was dangerous. Tom nodded slowly. I couldn't leave her there. When the storm finally passed, the valley grew calm again. The crystals shone with soft light, and the sky returned to its violet glow. The girl Tom had saved walked up to him shyly. She had bright green eyes and light blue hair that floated like mist. Thank you, she said quietly. You saved me, Tom smiled. I'm glad you are safe. Nira stood behind her, looking at Tom with wide eyes. She had seen him run into the storm without hesitation. Humans did not have energy barriers or control over harmonic power, yet he had faced the storm with nothing but his body and heart. Miss Rena looked at the class. Today you all saw something important. Strength is not always about control. Sometimes it is about courage. The students nodded silently. Many of them looked at Tom with new respect. When they returned to the airship, the class was quiet. The storm had scared them, but it had also changed something inside them. Tom sat by the window again, his hands bandaged lightly. Nira sat beside him this time. For a long while they did not speak. Then she said softly, "You are strange, human boy. No Loonian would have done that." Tom smiled weakly. "Why not?" "Because we are taught to trust energy first, not our bodies." "But you ran into the storm with nothing but your strength." He shrugged lightly. "Sometimes, when someone needs help, there is no time to think." Nira looked at him and smiled. "Maybe that is the human way. It is not bad." As the airship flew over the glowing plains, the twin suns began to set, painting the valley with orange and pink light. The crystals below sparkled, as if singing one last song before nightfall. Tom leaned against the window and watched quietly. He did not feel afraid anymore. He had faced the storm, and he had saved a friend. The world of Lunara did not seem so far from home now. In the soft hum of the airship, Nira whispered, "The plains will remember you." "Tom, they remember those who act with a pure heart." Tom looked out at the fading light and smiled. "Then maybe they will sing for me next time." After the storm at the Crystal Plains, Tom felt a strange mix of exhaustion and pride. His small hands still tingled from pushing the heavy crystal to save the girl, and his uniform was slightly singed. But he also felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet happiness that he had acted without fear to help someone. The next day at Starbloom Academy, the atmosphere in the classroom was different. The alien girls, who had once stared at him with curiosity or doubt, now looked at him with a mixture of respect and wonder. Some whispered quietly among themselves, while others gave him small nods of acknowledgement. Tom walked into the room and took his usual seat in the third row. Nira was already there, her silver eyes bright with curiosity. She gave him a small smile, and for the first time, felt truly part of the class. Miss Rena entered and clapped her hands lightly to gather attention. "Class," she said, her calm voice filling the room. "Today we will continue our studies in harmonic energy. But first, I want to acknowledge a very important event that happened yesterday." The students turned to her, their eyes wide. Miss Rena continued, "During the energy storm at the Crystal Plains, one of our new students, Tom from Earth, showed courage and compassion beyond what we have seen in many years. He acted to save a classmate without hesitation, despite the danger. This is a lesson not just in strength, but in the heart." The classroom was silent for a moment. Tom felt his face grow warm. Some of the girls looked at him with wide eyes. Nira's eyes sparkled, and she whispered softly, "You really did that?" "Yes," said Tom quietly. "I just did what I thought was right." Miss Rena smiled. "That is exactly why it is so meaningful. Courage and care are forms of strength. Sometimes they are even greater than power." The lesson began, but the atmosphere had shifted. The girls worked more carefully now, casting soft glances toward Tom, and some even asked him to help them with tasks. Tom discovered that while he could not move the crystals with sound like they could, he could offer advice, steady their tools, and think in ways that complemented their skills. After the class, several girls approached him during break. One with green eyes spoke first. "Tom, yesterday, you were very brave. I did not expect that." Tom smiled shyly. "I was scared too, but she needed help." Nira stepped closer. "You humans think differently. You do not rely on energy like we do, but that also makes you strong in ways we cannot see." Tom nodded. "We learn to solve problems with our bodies, minds, and hands. Sometimes that helps when nothing else works." Another girl with hair the color of pale gold said, "Would you teach us some of your human ways?" Tom blinked. "I can try." Miss Rena overheard the conversation and joined them. "That is a wonderful idea. Today, Tom can show the class a few things from his world. It will help everyone understand that strength can come from many sources." When the next session began, Tom stood at the front of the class. He had brought a small set of simple tools and objects from Earth. A metal rod, a wooden cube, and a small spinning top. "Today," he said, I will show you how humans make things move and learn with their hands." The alien girls leaned forward, curious. Even Nira looked intrigued. Tom started by showing how to balance the cube on his hand and spin the top with a flick of his fingers. It was simple, but he explained it carefully, step by step. "Humans do not have harmonic energy like you," he said. "But we use motion, patience, and observation to learn and solve problems. Sometimes it is slower, but it works." The students tried to copy him. Some laughed when their tops fell. Others were surprised when they managed to balance the cubes. Nira succeeded after a few tries, her silver eyes shining with excitement. "This is fun," she said softly. "Your world is very different, but it feels alive." Tom smiled. "It is. And maybe your world will teach me more too." Miss Rena watched silently, pleased. The classroom had changed. The girls who had doubted him before were now curious and eager to learn from him. Respect was slowly growing, and with it, friendship. After the lesson, Miss Rena assigned a group project. Each group had to build a small device using Lunian harmonic energy, combined with any human method they could think of. Tom was paired with Nira. They began brainstorming immediately. "I think we can use your hands to guide the energy," Tom suggested. "We can control where it goes, while your harmonic energy moves the blocks." Nira nodded. "Yes, we will make it stronger together." They worked carefully, experimenting with combining his motion skills and her energy control. Slowly, a small bridge of floating crystals began to take shape. Other groups worked as well, some using only harmonic energy. Some bridges fell apart, others succeeded. But all students learned from each other. When the project was complete, Miss Rena gathered everyone to observe the bridges. Tom and Nira's creation stood firm, combining both methods perfectly. "Excellent," Miss Rena said. "You have discovered a powerful lesson. Cooperation and respect for different ways of thinking can create results no single method could achieve." The class applauded. Some girls came to Tom, patting his back lightly, or offering small glowing crystals as gifts. He felt proud not just because of the bridge, but because he had earned their respect. After school, Tom walked through the academy gardens with Nira. The gardens were filled with plants that glowed softly and flowers that hummed gently in the wind. "You know," Nira said, "I did not believe humans could do much here." "I thought you would always struggle with our energy," Tom smiled. "Maybe we are different, but we have our own strengths, and sometimes that is enough to help others." Nira nodded. "I am glad you are here, Tom. You have shown us that courage and kindness are also powerful, not just energy." Tom felt warmth in his chest. He realized that respect was more valuable than anything else. The class had begun to see him not as a human outsider, but as a friend and a part of their world. The next day, a few students came early to the classroom. They wanted to practice what Tom had taught them. They spun the tops, balanced the cubes, and tried new ideas with laughter and curiosity. Tom joined them, guiding their hands and sharing small tips. Even some of the girls who had doubted him the most were smiling. They asked questions, trying to understand human thinking. Tom felt a sense of pride. He had not only survived the alien school, but he had also made a difference. Miss Rena watched quietly, seeing the transformation. "This," she said softly to herself, "is what true learning looks like. Strength, courage, and respect combined." During the afternoon, the students went outside to practice harmonic energy again. Tom joined Nira and helped guide the floating crystals. He could not move them with his voice, but he used his hands to steady them, showing the girls how to combine their energy with physical guidance. The lesson was a success. The students laughed as some crystals wobbled, others glowed brighter than ever. Nira turned to Tom and whispered, "I think you are teaching more than just human ways. You are teaching heart." Tom smiled. Maybe that is the easiest thing humans know how to do. By the time the sun set, painting the sky in soft orange and violet, the students gathered in the courtyard. Tom felt tired but happy. He had started as the new, strange human boy, unsure if he belonged. Now, He felt like he was part of the class. Miss Rena spoke to them one last time before dismissal. Remember, strength is not only in energy or skill. It is in courage, in kindness, and in respect. Tom has shown all of us that lesson. The students cheered softly. Tom blushed, feeling the warmth of their appreciation. Nira patted his shoulder gently. You are not just a visitor, Tom. You are our friend. Tom looked at the twin suns setting behind the crystal towers. He felt a quiet happiness in his heart. The human boy who had once felt small and out of place had earned the respect of the alien girls. He had shown that courage and kindness were as strong as any energy. Walking home through the glowing paths of the academy, Tom thought about the days ahead. He knew that there would be more challenges, more lessons, and more adventures. But he also knew that he would never be alone. He had earned respect. And with respect came friendship, and with friendship, the power to make a difference. And that, he thought, was stronger than any magic or energy in the universe. The morning sun of Lunara rose gently over Starbloom Academy. Its twin beams painted the crystal towers with soft gold and violet light. Tom stood outside his small room, stretching his arms and smiling. Today felt special. The events of the past week's first day, the classroom lessons, the storm at Crystal Plains, and the bridge project had changed him and the alien students forever. He took a deep breath and walked toward the academy. As he entered the bright hallways, he noticed several students waiting for him. Some held small glowing crystals. Others had sketches or notes. They smiled as he approached. Tom felt a warm feeling in his chest. The once strange classroom was now a place of friendship and respect. Nira walked beside him, her silver eyes shining. Good morning, Tom, she said softly. We are excited about today's lesson. Tom nodded. Me too. What will we do? Miss Rena was already at the front of the classroom, her long robe flowing as she moved. Today, we will work on something very special. We will combine Lunian energy and human creativity to build a bridge of light and strength. It will show how cooperation can unite different worlds. The students gathered around. Tom felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This project was bigger than anything they had done before. Nira stood beside him, holding a small crystal block. We can do this, she said quietly. Yes, Tom said. Together, Zarina guided the students outside to the academy courtyard. The wide-open space was perfect for the project. The ground was smooth, with small glowing lines indicating where the bridge would go. The courtyard was filled with energy, ready to respond to their efforts. The students split into groups. Tom and Nira led their team. They had several small crystal blocks and a few human tools that Tom had brought from Earth. Simple rods, wheels, and connecting pieces. First, Tom said, we need to place the blocks carefully. We will use your energy to lift them, and my hands to guide them into position. The alien girls nodded. They focused their harmonic energy on the first block. It rose slowly, glowing brightly. Tom moved beside it, steadying it with his hands and guiding it to the exact spot. Other groups worked in harmony as well. Some floated the blocks entirely with energy. Others tried to combine human tools. The air was filled with soft humming and the faint shimmer of light. Hours passed as they worked. At times, the blocks wobbled or fell. Some students grew frustrated, but Tom kept encouraging them. We can fix it. Let's try again. We can do this together, Nira smiled. You are patient, Tom. That helps everyone. Finally, after careful adjustments, their bridge began to take shape. Crystal blocks floated in perfect alignment, glowing with soft colors. Human rods connected them, holding them steady where energy alone could not. Miss Rena walked around, observing. Wonderful, she said. You have combined Lunian energy and human creativity perfectly. This bridge is a symbol of unity. The students stepped back. The bridge stretched across the courtyard, a path of light that seemed to shimmer with life. The glow reflected on the students' faces, filling them with awe. A small cheer rose from the group. Nira turned to Tom. We did it, she said softly. You've helped us build something no one could do alone. Tom smiled. We did it together. Humans and Loonians can do more when we combine our strengths. Miss Rena nodded. Exactly. This bridge is more than a structure. It shows what can happen when different hearts and minds work together. The students began to cross the bridge, feeling it steady beneath their feet. Tom walked beside Nira, watching the others. They laughed as they balanced on the glowing blocks, enjoying the harmony of energy and human guidance. After everyone had crossed, Miss Rena gathered the students. This bridge will remain as a reminder that cooperation, courage, and understanding are stronger than any one power alone. The students clapped softly, some holding their glowing crystals up to the sky. Tom felt his chest swell with pride. He had started as the small, nervous human boy who could not move a single crystal. Now he had helped create something lasting, something meaningful alongside his friends. Later, in the afternoon, Tom and Nira sat under the crystal trees in the academy gardens. The air was calm, the leaves shimmering softly, the twin suns casting warm light on the ground. You know, Nira said, I thought humans were weak at first. I thought your bodies could not handle our world. Tom laughed softly. Maybe we are different, but we have our ways. Nira looked at him seriously. No, it is more than that. You have heart. You do not just think about yourself. You help others even when it is dangerous. That is what makes humans strong. Tom felt warmth in his chest. I just do what I think is right. That is enough, she said, smiling. It is more than enough. Tom and Nira spent the rest of the afternoon talking, sharing small stories from their worlds. Tom told her about Earth, trees, rivers, and mountains. Nira told him about Lunara, the crystal forests, the singing valleys, and the twin suns. They laughed as they imagined what the other's world looked like. Other students joined them, bringing small gifts. Some had glowing stones, others brought soft plants from the academy gardens. Tom showed them how to spin the small human top he had taught them earlier. The students tried it, giggling as it wobbled and spun in unexpected ways. The day passed quickly. As the twin suns began to set, Tom stood beside Nira and looked at the bridge they had built. It glowed softly in the fading light, a ribbon of harmony stretching across the courtyard. It is beautiful, Tom said quietly. Yes, Nira agreed. And it is even more beautiful because we did it together. Miss Rena approached them, her robe flowing in the evening breeze. You have learned a great lesson, Tom, she said. Not all strength comes from power. Some comes from courage, patience, and the willingness to work together. You have shown all of us what it means to be a friend, a helper, and a part of a greater world. Tom felt a small smile for him. Thank you, Miss Rena. I am happy to be here. You're more than just here, she said softly. You are part of our world now. As the students left the courtyard, Tom and Nira walked together toward the academy dormitories. The sky above was painted in shades of orange and violet. The crystal trees glowed faintly, their hums soft and comforting. You know, Nira said, the bridge is like a promise that humans and Loonians can work together, learn from each other, and protect each other. Tom nodded. Yes, and we will keep that promise. Nira smiled. I am glad you are here, Tom. You are not just a visitor anymore. You are a friend, a true friend. Tom felt warmth in his heart. The days of fear and doubt had passed. He had entered a world where he was different, where no one knew him. And yet he had found respect, friendship, and a place to belong. That night, as Tom lay in his small room, he looked out at the twin moons rising above Lunara. He thought about the lessons he had learned. Courage is more important than power. Kindness is stronger than fear, and friendship can build bridges between worlds, he smiled. Knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new adventures. But he also knew that he would never face them alone. He had friends who trusted him, who believed in him, and who had learned to see the strength within a human heart. And in that moment, Tom felt a bond that would last a lifetime, a bond not just between humans and Loonians, but between hearts, minds, and worlds united in understanding and respect. The night was calm, the academy glowing softly under the twin moons. Tom closed his eyes, feeling at peace. He had started as the small human boy who did not belong. And now he was a a living connection between worlds, a symbol of courage, friendship, and hope.